Okay, so I'm sure by now you guys have heard there's going to be a pretty big rebalancing happening in the game. And I wanted to give like my thoughts, my opinions on some of these changes and, whether I agree, disagree, and how I would actually prepare for something like this. Okay, so there isn't going to be any gameplay, unfortunately, for today's video, but there will be for tomorrow. And yeah, I guess let's get started here because this might end up being a pretty long video. So I'm going to go over to Discord where all the changes and rebalancing has been kind of mentioned. And we're going to take a look at the Curie. Okay, so we all know the Curie is really strong. First of all, I'm going to point out what I think is strong for the Curie. So I think, when players keep spamming their ability, getting their durability back all the time, you can't kill them. And also the turret damage. Those are the two big things, I think, that make the Curie strong. So if I was to address anything, it would be those two, which is interesting because they've actually got it for the first two things here. But they also have reduced turret effective range, lockdown as well, and movement speed. You know what? I think I would not do the last three. I think they have the right idea with this. Okay, so I don't know about the 30% though. I think maybe knocking it down to, 15%, half of this. That's pretty much what I would do. But they have the right idea with the first two things. And I think I would do that first and then kind of see how the Curie performs. And if they need to take it a step further, maybe reduce the amount of durability it gets when it uses its ability. That would be the next step. But I think that's how I would balance the Curie. Okay, so next up is the Crisis. They have here increased cooldown of the stealth. Now, the thing is with the Crisis, it can do a lot of damage. Don't get me wrong, but it is a very fragile bot. It's a glass cannon. Okay, so I think if you're taking away that stealth, I don't really think it's necessary. You have to kind of keep in mind too that we have the Seeker drone, which, if you're a Crisis player and someone has a Seeker, you're at a huge disadvantage. So I think, having this, I don't know if I quite agree with that nerf. Okay, so I wouldn't have this kind of nerf for the Crisis. The Dagon looks like they've adjusted actually quite a few things here. Okay, so reduced durability, so less health. Reduced duration of the shield. Let's see. Increased cooldown of the shield. Increased bonus to movement speed. This is a buff here. Increase Aegis regeneration while the shield surge is active. Okay, so they've kind of mixed around a couple of things here. Now, the thing is with the Dagon, it's actually kind of on the weaker side right now because a lot of players are running unstable conduit. So with that, in mind, I'm not sure if I would actually adjust anything, to be honest. Mind you, it does have 6 weapons, and if you have all that firepower, it should be on the weaker side. But I think in the current meta, with the unstable conduit, I think where it's at now is kind of where it needs to be. I've been running the Dagon. Yes, it can do a lot of damage, but also at the same time, I've had to use Last Stand. And that just goes to show you, how many players are using unstable conduit. So I think with the Dagon, I would probably leave things as is. And I think if they are going to, change anything, reducing the durability maybe down to like 200,000. I think this might be a little bit too much here. And if you're going to do that, then keep this one. So that's how I would balance the Dagon. The Inquisitor, let me just scroll here a bit here. The Inquisitor, no one even uses this robot. Reduce cooldown for the Descent 18 to 17. I think they should have just made it 15 seconds, to be honest, with the Inquisitor. But it's nice that they're actually giving a buff to it. So that should be kind of interesting. Also, one thing to also point out, usually when it comes to buffs and nerfs, it happens in waves. So I would keep an eye on the Inquisitor because this might be one of many buffs. Okay, and the same goes with the Hades and any of the other robots here. Okay, so the Hades increased durability. This is obviously a good thing. What I would have liked to have seen, maybe increased speed and also, more damage done with the built-in weapon. I think that is what I would have changed for the Hades. Especially the built-in weapon, I think would have helped a lot. Jaeger, no one really plays the Jaeger, so any kind of buff is good. Increased damage, built-in weapon, increased bonus to movement speed. Let's see, bonus sniper mode. Yeah, all of these changes or buffs to the Jaeger is good. But, I think even after all of these buffs, we're still not going to see a lot of Jaegers. Okay, we've got the Leech with another buff. Interesting. Okay, so the Leech actually got a buff, a pretty significant one actually, kind of recently. So that's obviously a good thing. I think we're going to see a lot more Leeches out there. The Lynx is getting a nerf. Okay, reduce movement speed, increase bonus to movement speed, increase cooldown of the ferocity. I think with the Lynx, the only thing that I would have maybe changed is maybe a cooldown time of the ability and then kind of leave it as is and kind of monitor it. You don't want to go overboard with the Lynx because I think in the current meta, I think the Lynx is sort of important. So yeah, I don't know if I would have done all of this. I think maybe just... if you're going to do one thing, maybe the cooldown time, using that as, if you're going to do this, then don't do the other two. Or if you do reduce movement speed, then don't touch these. I think that's how I would have balanced the Lynx. The Nightingale, Okay, so we have reduced cooldown of the air support, increased bonus to movement speed. Which is funny because I remember when they nerfed the Nightingale, they reduced the speed. And now they're upping it again, so it's going to be faster, which is good. They shouldn't have done that anyways in the first place. So that's good for the Nightingale. The Archo, let's see, increased durability, reduced knockback, 25%, reduced... I'm not sure about this last one here. I can kind of see this one here. I don't know if 25% is too much. Maybe they should have done like 10%. The Archo is still very strong though. A lot of players were telling me that the Archo isn't good. But if you, watch any of the clan battles and a lot of the top players, quite often they do use the Archo. Basically use an Archo push with the Tesla weapons. And that helps them to charge up their Titan faster because then they're capturing beacons, doing damage. So the Archo is still actually very strong. Now they're giving it more health, which is interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure about this last one. I think these two kind of make sense in a way. 25% might be a little bit too much. I think maybe, knocking it down like 10% would be probably where it should be. So that's what I would do with the Archo. The Pathfinder, let's see, what do we have here? I'm just kind of highlighting that so that you guys can see what I'm reading. So we have reduced damage bonus. The Pathfinder definitely does a lot of damage once you are stacked. Increased repair for destroying enemy robots. Let's see, reduced. Yeah, this is one of those changes where I think I need to play the Pathfinder to see where it's at. I don't know what your thoughts are. Maybe comment in the comment section down below. What do you think of the changes to the Pathfinder? The Raptor. Okay, well, you know what? The Raptor is very strong and it definitely needs a nerf. So it looks like we're going to be getting quite a big nerf here. Increased movement speed. Reduced damage of the built-in weapon. Reduced damage from the Comet Splash. That's actually quite a big change here. Reduce the amount of damage reflected by the reflector. Actually, this is very good. But you know what? Because the Raptor just came out, if I had to change anything for the Raptor, I think what I would do is definitely the last one. I think this is important because you need to be able to damage a Raptor. If they're going to be getting the ability so frequently, then this is kind of important. Or another thing, maybe increasing the cooldown time. I think if they did that, the cooldown time and keeping this, those two things would be enough, I think, to help balance the Raptor out. Then they can keep all of this as the same. That's what I would have done for the Raptor. The Revenant. Okay, let's see. What do we have here for the Revenant? Let me just try to highlight this. Increase protection from great damage while under the effect of aggressive blink. You know what? This has got to be like the third buff. Actually, the last buff for the Revenant was pretty big. We're going to see a lot more Revenant. I think Revenant and Leech. This makes a Revenant really good. I think if you don't have a Revenant right now in your hangar, you may want to kind of explore that. And I think, for my baby account, I'm actually thinking of throwing in a Revenant because of that. That's really tanky. So I'm keeping an eye on that. I do have the Archer, on that account as well. And I have a Lynx. But I'm looking at the Leech too. So I think that's what I'm going to do to prepare. I'm going to level up a Revenant and probably a Leech if I have that. Okay, so that's pretty much how I'm going to be preparing, at least, based on what I'm seeing here so far. Shenlo, increased blink interval. Okay, so I can kind of see this change. Reduce Aegis shield. Change Aegis profile, personal. What is this? Oh, wait, what? Aegis profile. I'm not sure what they mean by this. Okay, increased. I can kind of see this. I can kind of see this as a nerf. But you know what? If they're doing something like this, I don't think they should go ahead and do these yet. Or if they do, because they're reducing this by another 10,000, maybe do it like 5,000. And I'm not sure what this one here, the last one is, but I can definitely see the first two, helping to bring the Shenlo in balance. Okay, now we have actually quite a few weapons here. Robot weapons. So the Aramis, the Athos, these weapons do a lot of damage. Increase full reload. Reduce damage. Okay, I kind of saw this happening. These weapons are very powerful. Okay, so I think, I don't know about the reload time. I think if you're going to do the reload, you don't really need to do the damage part. So they have reduced damage as well on top of that. Increase full reload. You know what I think I would have done for something like these weapons? Maybe keep the damage first and then increase the reload. I'm not sure about 12, to 16, maybe like 15 seconds, and then kind of see how it affects the weapon. This might be a little bit too aggressive, in my opinion. The Avalanche, increase ammo capacity. Well, that's a pretty big buff. That's 16 to 24. I may have to test out the Avalanche. That's actually a very big buff. Okay, so, if you have Avalanche, you may want to experiment with that weapon when, these changes go live. Blight, Decay, increase burst interval. Let's see. Increase damage of 11%. But you know what? I think this is going to be very noticeable. So that's kind of like a nerf, which I was expecting, to be honest, because, I did say in the past that if you compare the Blight, Hazard, and Decay to some of the new weapons, they output so much damage. They just totally outperform some of the newer weapons. And, if you're talking about balance overall, it shouldn't really be focused on, it's an old weapon, it's okay. Well, no, actually it's not, because if you're talking about balance, it should include old weapons and new weapons. If you want to balance anything, properly, that's what you need to do. So I think where they're going with this, although I'm not sure about the damage increase, I can kind of see this. I think this might be a little bit maybe too aggressive. Maybe they should have done it to like 1.25 or something. I'd have to see how this plays out. Okay, so I am keeping an eye on this, but if it is a nerf, which in this case it is, except for maybe Decay. So, definitely the Blight. If this is a nerf, just be warned. As I said, things happen in waves. The probability increases that we might see further nerfs. Okay, so if they don't see the numbers dropping, then there's probably going to be more nerfs to come. Okay, so just kind of giving you guys a warning. Or at least a heads up. Okay, so we have Flux. Oh wait, they have this one here too. Increased damage. So they have it for the Hazard and they have it for Decay, but not the Blight. And I wonder if it's because of the Dagon too. Yeah, I don't know about having... This is one of those things where I'd have to play it in order to kind of gauge, how much of a difference it really makes. Increase ammo capacity of the Flux, reduce reload. Okay, so that's a buff to the Flux. Hurricane, reduce damage. I think this is a good thing. A lot of players were complaining about the Hurricane. I don't personally use the Hurricane. I don't think it's a good weapon. I know players will say, well, it does so much damage, but one way to take out a player that uses these weapons, all you need to do is you need to use cover, first of all, and move from cover to cover and get closer and closer to them. This is pretty much how I deal with players who are running these weapons. And, I haven't really had a problem with that. So, is what it is. Jaw, Claw, Talon, reduce full reload time. Okay, so this is a buff for these weapons. It would have been nice to see also a damage buff, I think, for the Jaw, the Claw, and the Talon. But this is good because it's a buff for it. Okay, so it's going to reload faster. Okay, so these weapons here need a nerf, damage-wise, right? Increase burst, increase full reload time. Okay, so they're not affecting they are affecting the damage per minute, but what they're doing is it's taking longer for you to reload in order to use these weapons, which is a good thing because if you're running these weapons on, say, like Shen Lo, you are going to go through a period where you have to reload and it's going to make you more vulnerable. Okay, so I can kind of see, this nerf, and we all kind of knew it was going to happen. Those weapons are doing way too much damage. Magnetar reduced damage. Increase lockdown accumulation. I'm not sure if I agree with this Magnetar. Only because I remember testing this, compared to the Blight. And I actually found that, the Blight was doing far more damage for one. But they are reducing it there, so I'm not sure how that would play out. I think for the Magnetars, I would have maybe reduced it down, not 2,400, maybe somewhere in between 2,700, 2,800. Keep it as that, and then keep this as well. I think that's what I would have done with the Magnetars. Morana, Xion, Jotun, increase burst interval. You know what? Not many players actually use this. I think the only players that use these weapons are the ones that run the Pathfinder. I think, because I don't honestly run into that many players using. So I can kind of see where they're kind of going with this. Increase burst interval. Which actually, I thought it was a buff, but this is actually a nerf because it's increased burst interval. So it's taking longer. Yeah, you know what? I think for these weapons, I would have probably just kept things as is. And then see how the players adapt. I think that's what I would have done because honestly, I don't really see that many players using it. At least in the games I play. And, I'm talking about even stronger players. Okay, you're more likely not to see them use it. Because the thing with these weapons is you can do a lot of damage if you do hit your target. But it has the disadvantage of if you're firing from a higher elevation and you're firing down, quite often you miss your target. Or if they're flying in the air, you will miss. And that alone kind of balances these weapons out. So to nerf it on top of that, I don't know. I don't think I would have done that with this. I would have fixed the bug. If you're shooting down at a player, you're actually hitting them, then that's a different story. Bottom line is, you're not. So I don't think I agree with this change here. Yeah, I wouldn't touch that. Rhyme, Cryo Glacier, reduce reload interval, increase effective range. Oh, whoa. That's actually quite a big buff, that. Okay, this is actually really good for the players who use Skyros. Okay, so if you're using the Skyros, you may want to consider running the Rhyme, Cryo, and Glacier because if you look at the reload here, it's going to make that build more effective. Okay, so I can definitely see this being used for the Skyros. So that's actually a really good buff. Okay, so some of the older weapons here are getting buffs. Scatty, Snare, Held, reduce reload time. This is another very good buff too. Okay, so I'm kind of curious to see how this kind of works out. The reload time, which was always a problem with these weapons, after they did nerf them down. So I'm kind of glad that they're reducing it. I would have done maybe 2 seconds. Shift bug, increase burst interval, increase full reload time, which is basically what we had with the Lei Ming and the Feng Bao. I don't know why they don't group it together, but that is a nerf. Again, we were all expecting that. Spark, increase ammo capacity. That's a pretty big buff. Okay, man, I'm trying to wrap my head around all these changes here because, when it comes to my baby account, I do have many of these older weapons that I kind of wish that I had actually upgraded because, I think I might have a couple of Spark, but yeah, that's a big change. And the last time that I ran these weapons, I think it was on the Dagon, I was kind of shocked at how much damage I was doing, and now they're buffing it even more. So that's a good thing because, you know, more players have access to the Spark. I do believe you can build it in Workshop, so that's a good thing. Let's see, Subduers, reduced damage. Again, you know, we were all expecting the Subduer to get nerfed, and you can definitely see that here. Effective range, 500 meters, increased shot interval. So you know what I would have done for the Subduer? I think the range thing is important. So 500 meter range, increased shot interval. I think this might be a little bit too much. The 3,400. I think maybe they should have, like, if you're going to do these other two things here, maybe 3,700, 3,800 is probably where I would have started. Okay, that's what I would have done with the Subduer. But again, we were, you know, all expecting the Subduer to get a nerf. And you got to remember too, the rust effect was also changed, right? Because you can heal up from some of that now. So you don't want to go too far with, and on top of that, they're also increasing the shot interval here. So I think if you're going to do that and you're reducing the range, I think you got to up the damage a bit more, in my opinion. Okay, so I think they might be going a little bit overboard with the Subduer. Ultimate shock drain, reduced damage per 1 accumulation charge, reduced charge. You know what? Is this a first weapon, the ultimate weapon that has been nerfed? I think it is. I'm trying to recall here. Oh, wait. The other thing too, I just realized that my screen is not showing the full thing. So basically it says increased first charge accumulation time 2 to 3 seconds. So my screen kind of cut off here, but that's pretty much what it says. You know, the ultimate shock drain does do too much damage, so I'm kind of in a way glad. I know it's an ultimate weapon, but I'm glad that they are changing that because, you know, after running it, it does way too much damage. You know, when you hit someone with it, it's almost like a one-shot, one-kill thing. And yeah, I think that change is good. Overall, you know, I'm not too worried about some of these changes. I think they're headed in the right direction as far as, you know, what they have here. I'm kind of glad that they are buffing, you know, some of the older weapons like the Rhyme, the Cryo Glacier, Scuddy, Snare Hell, Spark. I'm just looking. Magnetar, I don't quite agree with. You know, a couple of them I don't agree with, or, you know, I would have done things a little bit differently. But overall, I'm kind of happy with, you know, where they're going with that. Okay, let's take a look at the Titans here. Let me just scroll up. Okay, so we got the Bedveer. What do we have here? Reduced duration of the barrier, reduced repair. Okay, so the barrier field, that's 2 seconds off it. Reduced durability bonus from absorbing damage. So, you know, the thing with the Bedveer is it's not like we see a lot of Bedveers out there. So if we don't see that many, it means that it's kind of fairly balanced relative to what's out there already. I'm trying to think like what I would change if I had to change something. I think maybe the duration of the barrier. I think this is a good change, but I don't think I would have done the last two. Reduced repair from passive ability. Durability but from absorbing damage with the barrier field. You know what? Maybe knock this down to 30%. Don't do the second one and keep this here. And then see how the Bedveer plays out. I think this might be going a little bit too far with some of the changes they have, like the bottom one here. 35% to 25%. I don't know if I quite agree with that. Yeah, I don't think I agree with that part. But I know when I play the Bedveer, the shield does pop up very frequently. So that would be nice to kind of reduce that time, which is what they've done here. And, you know, just absorbing the amount of damage, which... I mean, to be honest, the only thing that I think really needs to change is just this one here. Keep the last two out of it. Like, take this out, keep this one. The I-4 is way too strong. So the thing with the I-4, when I do play against the I-4, you know, the ability to dash away from me for one, the amount of firepower that it has, and also the way that it keeps gaining its health back. Okay, so those are the things that make it strong and overpowered. So those are the things that need to be addressed. Reduced durability. Okay, so that's a good one. Reduced duration of the... so I guess this is when it goes into flight, right? I think that's what it is. Reduced durability bonus. Holy, that's actually a big change. Jeez. Yeah, this might be a little bit too excessive though. But like, as I said, you know, one of the things with the Eiffel that makes it really hard to kill is every time when they go in a flight, you know, they get that extra health. This is cutting it down by a lot. So I think that's a good change, but I think that might be a little bit too much. Reduced damage bonus for additional weapons. Reduced cooldown. Man, this thing's like turning from an Eiffel into an Ao Jung. Those are a lot of nerfs. Yeah, so the only thing I think I would have changed for the Eiffel, when it goes into flight, it doesn't get that much durability. This way, you know, it's weakened that way. And the other thing is maybe increasing the cooldown time of when you can use your ability. Like, you can't keep using it frequently. I think that would have balanced the Eiffel a lot better. I think they're going way too far with some of the stuff. You know, for example, this here, and then reducing the cooldown. Yeah, I think they're going a little bit too far with the Eiffel. I think that's what I mentioned is what I would do in order to, you know, bring the Eiffel back into balance at least with the rest of the game. They have the Heimdall here. Wait, is this a buff? Increased movement speed, increased damage. Holy, that's a lot. Which is funny because the Heimdall, remember when the Heimdall came out, no one used it? And then they buffed it like, I think it was like 4 or 5 times. This is going to be like the 6th buff. But man, that's some crazy buffs. Increased movement speed, increased damage bonus, increased defense points, increased damage of the shapeshift attack mode. Dude, this might even become meta. I mean, that's like, those are some serious buffs to the Heimdall. We're going to see a lot more Heimdalls out there for sure. And the thing is, you know, it has like a frontal shield too, which is nice. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more Heimdalls out there. That's a big deal. That's almost as big as a deal that, you know, what they did with the Sirius Titan, the amount of healing, that this is going to make a big difference. Okay, so we have a Luchador nerf here. Now, I think I did mention in like a live stream, kind of recently, a couple of weeks back, I mentioned I wouldn't be surprised that they do kind of nerf the Luchador because for one, they did do a nerf already, which means it's on their radar, and usually things happen in waves. So there was a high probability that they were going to nerf it again. And well, you can see here, reduced. Although, I think that's going way too far. Like, I can understand like maybe 150. The thing is, the Luchador is very vulnerable now. You got to understand, not only the Luchador, the Rook, because I noticed they have the Rook here too. Reduced durability of the frontal shields. Reduce repair. Yeah, you know what? I honestly, at this point in the game, I don't think I would touch the Luchador or the Rook because I do find them on the vulnerable side. Especially if you are dealing with like the new weapons, the Luchador and the Rook go down so fast. You know, the Rook obviously has some sort of protection with the physical shields. I don't think, this is just my opinion, you know, if I was Pixonic, I would not touch the Luchador or the Rook. I think where it's at right now is about balanced. Obviously, things can change, you know, as the game evolves, but I think if you're going to do these other changes, keep the Luchador and the Rook the way that it is. And yeah, just watch it, monitor to see if players shift over to like the Heimdall and stuff. But I think that's what I would do. Nodens, reduce cooldown time from the disposal, 18. I think for the Nodens, I would have liked to have seen like more speed and like more durability or something. Definitely more speed. I think I would have liked to have seen for the Nodens. It looks like we have a Shuranga buff. Increase the slowing effect of the phase exile. I wonder how this is going to affect like something like the Mauler. Because that could somewhat be a counter, I guess. You know, you slow them down and you hit them with the Vindicator weapons, perhaps. I don't know. Might be something to think about. Would it be nice to see more durability and maybe speed on the Shuranga? You know, if they're going to be buffing it. I think I would have actually preferred those over this. But again, you know, this is what we have here. Any kind of buff is good, honestly, for the Shuranga. Because the Shuranga, no one uses it. Let me just scroll up. Okay, so we have Titan weapons now. Basilisk and Crate. Increase ammo. You know what? I think that's got to be like the second or third buff. Yeah, because they did buff it before, and they buffed it again. Okay, so if you have these weapons, might be something worth considering. Actually, you know what? I do have these weapons on my baby account. I might consider rather actually leveling these up, because that might actually make a big difference. When you have that much ammo, it's kind of nice. And also, it kind of works really well against bots and stuff that have reflector shields, which might be really good if I were to use my Arthur with these weapons, countering the Raptor paps. So something to think about. Dazzle Lantern, increase ammo. I think these changes are good. You know, the Dazzle Lantern kind of fell off the meta very quickly after they nerfed it, and this is a buff. So I kind of like where they're going with these two changes. The Discordia and the Tumultus needed a nerf, which, let's see what they've got here. Okay, so that's a nerf. Rate of fire will no longer increase when firing continuously. Okay, so not too... you know, it's hard to actually tell because I need to run these weapons, but this part here is good. And that's quite a big increase in shot interval. I think this might be enough actually to bring these weapons in balance, but we were all expecting that. Remember, we were all expecting that these weapons were probably going to get a nerf because they're doing way too much damage. We don't even see any players use this, so I'm assuming that these are getting buffed, right? Increase the cone angle in which weapons deal damage. I'm not sure how much this is going to affect these weapons. I think these weapons actually need to do a little bit more damage, but we'll see how this pans out. Inferno, okay, so Inferno and Pyro do way too much damage right now. So I'm expecting some sort of a nerf. Reduce damage, yep. Increase the cool period. I think they might be going a little bit overboard here, though. I think, you know, if I had to adjust anything for the Inferno and the Pyro, it would just be the damage. So I can kind of see like the 5,000 to 4,000. I can see these changes, but I don't think I would do this, like the rest of these changes. So increase the cooling period when the weapons overheat. Yeah, I don't think I would have done that. But overall, you know, I kind of like where they're going with the changes. A little bit excessive on the flamethrowers, though. Let me just scroll down. We're going to take a look at drones now. Oh, boy. Okay, so the barrel. Change the activation threshold for on-load durability. Okay. The Iron Hearth. Reduce cooldown of... This is kind of interesting. So this is, I guess, a buff, right? Reduce cooldown of the Frozen Heart of Iron Hearth. I think we're going to see more players use this. Okay, Kestrel, reduce damage bonus from the death mark. Added time limit for on-kill speed. I can kind of see where they're going with this. I'm trying to think like what else the Kestrel like provides. Damage bonus, added time for... You know what? I think what they should have maybe done with the Kestrel, pick one of these and then just go with it and then leave the other one off. So if you're going to go with reduced damage bonus, then don't do this. I think that's what they should have done. Although, I don't know. I don't really see the Kestrel as being a big deal. I think, in all honesty, they should just leave the Kestrel as is. The Pascal, though. Okay, so the Pascal is very strong. So I wouldn't be surprised if this gets quite a big nerf here. Reduce repair from on threshold. Reduce bonus from on kill assist. Let's see. 21. Oh, geez. 21 to 13%. 13 to 7. Change thresholds for on threshold fixed percentage. Yeah, so you know, the Pascal is one of those drones where you could put it on anything and it would be very effective because it gives you resistance and it gives you a ton of damage, you know, bonus with that. So it doesn't really surprise me that they were rebalancing this. I'm not sure if it's going overboard with what they have here. Probably is. It's one of those things where I would need to actually play, you know, a game or a couple games with the Pascal to see how it fares. But I was kind of expecting a nerf to the Pascal, to be honest. that might be a little bit too excessive, but, you know, I was expecting that. The shy on or reduced duration of the last stand, on-load durability. I think they should have just left the shy as is. I think I would have just left it as is. Yeah, I don't think I would have touched it. Okay, so that's one thing. Oh, geez, so even talking about pilots here. Man, we got a lot of stuff. Oh, wait, that's the last one, right? Oh, it is. Okay, so now for the pilots. Otto Schreier. Plasma reduce a rate of fire bonus of Otto's inventiveness. You know what? In all honesty, I don't think they should have touched the Otto. I know some players use it. Maybe they're doing it because they know players are going to use it with the Blight, Hazard, and Decay. And I think that's where they're going with that. The thing is, when I ran tests and when I was actually using the Otto with the Blight, Hazard, and Decay, it didn't really do that much for me. You got to keep in mind that your cooldown time of your reload is the same. So while you are firing, you're not really firing that much faster, and you're not really benefiting much as you might think, because your reload time is still the same. So I don't think I would have really changed the Otto Schreier. Where it does make a difference is if I was to run like Magnums or like the Spear weapon. Okay, so if you are running the Magnums or Spear, then it kind of makes sense to use the Otto Schreier, but Blight, Hazard, Decay doesn't really make sense to use it. But I think going from 35 to 25, I think that might be a little bit too excessive. Maybe 35 to 30. Maybe that's where it needs to be. That's the other thing too, guys. So even though, you know, we are testing these things on the test server, doesn't mean what you see here is what's going to be the final, like, amount or, you know, the final stats. It's very possible that they could drop some of these things or reduce it. You know, if it is a nerf, reduce it significantly. It has been done in the past. So just kind of keep that in mind. These aren't the final things. So Zoe, how do you pronounce that name? Belot? Curie, reduce ability recharge bonus from 25 to 15. Recharge bonus. Yeah, I think, you know, I already kind of commented on the Curie's buff. I think if you're going to do all of that, you really don't need to go even further with the pilot. Again, just my opinion. What makes a Curie strong is when players keep spamming the ability and they keep getting their health back. You can't kill them because of that. Also, the damage of the turret. So if they focus on those things, they don't need to touch this pilot here. And I also don't think they need to touch the Otto Schreier. Okay, so unless, of course, they are working on a weapon which kind of falls into that category, and we just haven't seen that weapon yet. I'm not sure what weapons, because I do believe we do have the Howler and the Screamer here based on what they have. Although I'm not sure, I'm going to be able to cover it, this week. But I do plan on eventually covering these weapons. So I'm not sure if this kind of falls into that category, because if it does, then I can kind of see where they're going with the Otto Schreier. But, in the current state of the game that we have right now, I don't think I would touch any pilots. Keep the pilots as is. And then in the case of the Curie, let me just scroll up here. So the Curie, I think I said just the first two. The turret damage might be a little bit too much. Maybe down to 20, maybe do 20% turret damage. And then keep this. And not include these last three. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much my thoughts on the changes, the balance changes. I don't know what you guys think. What do you think is maybe a little bit too excessive? What would you change? Mention it in the comment section down below. And I think that's pretty much it. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up. And with that said, thank you guys for watching. Stay safe. And until the next video, I'll catch you guys later.